Happy New Year, everybody. Hope you all had a great Christmas, winter holiday season, and everyone is rejuvenated again for going into 2021. The first video this year, I wanted to talk about something a little bit more strategic and talk about the importance of having a sales and marketing strategy. As we go into a new year, a lot of you will be thinking about this, probably started your planning a couple of months ago, and it will be starting to go into fruition now. So I just wanted to recap with everyone why this is important. And also I've got a kind of analogy that I'm using here, which hopefully will help some of you to understand it better and maybe think about it from a different point of view to normal. So let's get started. So what is this analogy that I'm going to be talking about to help us visualize the problem of setting goals and the importance of setting goals and a strategy? Well, over Christmas I was watching a film called The Greyhound. If you haven't seen it, it's fantastic. It's got Tom Hanks in it that I love, and in this film he is the captain of a warship during the Second World War. And he is leading a large group of ships over from the US to the UK to provide support and rations and weaponry and ammunition to help the war effort in Europe. During this film, the convoy of ships that he's leading is under attack by German U-boats. And so the whole premise of the film is one or two nights where he stays up and he is glued to the radar system and the sonar system to understand where the U-boats are, where are they going to be attacking from, are the other ships in the convoy safe, and he is tasked with protecting them. And he gets very little sleep during this time, but he's building a strategy and a plan live, in live action to fend off these U-boats and protect the ships that he's supposed to be protecting. And I thought this is a really good analogy to help us understand the sales strategy setting process, the goal setting process. So I'm going to be using this analogy for today. So we start off where we have no strategy, and this may be where you guys are today. It may be where you were 3 or 4 months ago going into 2021. We're talking about an annual strategy here for sales and marketing. And basically you have a decision as to which direction you're going to go. So you can continue to go forward from where you were going as of 2020. You can pivot either, let's say, left or right in this scenario and try a different strategy, or you can go backwards, which is to revert to a previous strategy that you were using before, or to completely flip around everything that you're doing and try a completely different method of sales and marketing in 2021. So the question here at the start of the year, as you're starting to build a strategy from having no strategy, is which way do we go? There's a few different things that will influence this. So you've got your past influences, and certainly talking about 2020, as many of us know, that could be the uncertainty factor, could be poor performance that you had, or it could be good performance that you had, because lots of industries performed very well in 2020, especially IT and software. So really it's about understanding what worked in the past, not just in 2020, but further back than that as well, and what didn't work. Some new businesses won't have that record, and many businesses won't have actually recorded the data that's important to understand what worked and what didn't in the past. Then you've also got to layer in the future expectations for the market, for your business, for your finances. And even if you did do well last year, will that be repeated? Will we see the same effects in 2021 that we saw in 2020? And is that a good indicator for us? So what's missing when you have no strategy? Well, the next step is to do some research and set your goals. And this is the foundation of a strategy moving forward, because we can't make an informed decision until we know more. And that research will give us the information, and then the goal setting will help us set the direction that we're going to go in. So we move on from having no strategy now to the research and goal setting process. So what we've decided is that we're going to continue to go forward in this example. Could be that you go left, right, backwards, but in this example we're saying that we are going in X direction, we're going in this direction. And what we find through the process of doing our research is that there are obstacles in the way, left and right and forward of us. And what that means is that now we need to start to understand how are we going to plot a course through these obstacles to come out the other side more successful than we are today, to grow our business, which is the ultimate goal of sales, is to grow revenues, grow the customer base, improve customer acquisition. And what we also see through this goal setting process is that we have some milestones on the horizon. At the moment, we don't know how far those milestones are away from us. So they all appear in this analogy as a blip right on the edge of our radar, but we don't necessarily know how far away they are, whether there's a path that connects them or not. So at this point, we really can't say, do we go, in this example here, do we go left through this path? Or do we go right through this path? We don't know. And to be able to hit all of those goals, we can't say for sure whether we should go left or right. So the question here really is, how do we get there being the goals at the end of this process? Research will provide us with the map of the obstacles in front of us, as I said, and that will help us to understand the direction that we go in. Obviously, through this process, you may also have looked backwards, left and right, and found that there are significant obstacles in those directions, which means that we cannot go in that direction. So therefore, we have to go in this forward direction that we've chosen here. And then the goal setting, well, that provides us with the medium to long-term goals that we want to reach this year. And it's all about plotting that course to reach those, preferably all of those, but at least some of those goals. So what's missing? Well, the path that we take between them, and we have to do that in such a way that we avoid the obstacles and we reach as many of those goals as possible. Now, once we've understood the map, the world that sits in front of us as a sales team, now we need to start to build a strategy. Now, these goals that we've identified, as we start to move forward and the map in front of us becomes clearer, or the year in front of us becomes clearer as we go through the quarters, we will understand that actually these goals are laid out in a fashion that we can hit them all. But in order to hit them all, we need to have a strategy. And the strategy is the way that you turn left and right through this map in order to hit those goals. So for example, we can see here, the lines that we're drawing are the best way to achieve all four of these goals. Note that the fourth goal is still on the horizon because it's a longer term goal. The first goal is short term, could be first quarter, second quarter, third, fourth quarter, and fourth quarter, for example. So how do we reach every milestone along the way? And what are those milestones? Well, a method is important. This is the tactical planning that allows you to go from A, B, C to D, or quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the most logical and focused way. Now, some of these milestones will be influenceable by people, by processes, by the market. So building this kind of tactical plan that encompasses all of those potential pitfalls and blockers along the way is really important. So staying focused on one goal at a time could be the way to do that. Being logical in the way that you move from one goal to the next. So perhaps to reach goal 2, actually you have to have ticked off a significant amount of goal 1 in order to achieve that. So for example, it might be we want to achieve 500k in revenue by halfway through the year. In order to do that, we need to reach our first milestone, which is to hire another salesperson that will enable us to meet that quota. I wouldn't always recommend that you set KPIs based on total revenue, but I'll come on to that in a second. And then obviously you're talking about the resourcing. So as I mentioned, it might be hiring a new person, it might be implementing a new sales process or a methodology. So your qualification methodology, you might change it to a more modern version that works better for your product and your type of customer profile. It might be the tools, and this is obviously where I come in, generally speaking. the tools that you need to be able to do the job. So maybe you don't have a sufficient pipeline tracking system, you don't have a sufficient CRM, you don't have the prospecting tools, the email marketing tools that you need to be able to reach these goals. And this is all about doing it in the most efficient way. With the right tools, the right people, and the right methods, you will be able to find an efficient path that reduces the amount of outlay resources that you need to spend, if you like, to reach these goals in a more efficient fashion, and it lets people spend their time focusing on the next goal or focusing on some kind of side goals that are in and around those areas that can be ticked off to improve the business's position. What are we missing here? Well, we're missing data capture. As we move forward, we cannot forget what has come before us. So we need to ensure that the path that we take and the battles that we fight, if we were to use the analogy, the battles that we fight along the way are recorded so that we can analyze them afterwards. And that will help us to build better strategies when we come to 2022, for example, and we need to reformulate this strategy or pivot the strategy. That data will be critically important to help us understand how we move forward again in the next period. So let's talk a little bit about that analysis and review process. So this is the looking backwards. This is the same map but flipped around backwards. So now we're at the end of 2021. We're in the future, and we're looking back. Now we've plotted this course. We understood which direction we took. In reality, maybe actually we didn't quite take the most efficient path. We kind of bent around here. We wasted some time getting to Q1's goals, and therefore actually we had to miss Q2 completely and move straight on to Q3's primary goal because we didn't manage to complete Q1's goals in time, for example. Now this is obviously abstract thinking. These goals will be usually time limited. They'll have specific KPIs that are measurable and influenceable. So it's not always about, well, if we miss Q1, we'll skip to Q2 to make up for it, and then we'll get back on path in Q3. It's usually a lot more structured than that. But this is, just to help you understand what I'm thinking here about reviewing the past and make sure you understand the path that you took. And what that will do is help you to then plot the future. So now we're looking into 2022 at the end of this year, and we can see that the path that we were taking before, if we continue to move forward, is mostly blocked off, as in the strategy that we're using isn't going to work effectively, or the market has changed significantly, and actually it benefits us to go off to the right here in a different direction for us to pivot. And so now we set some goals that enable us to move off in that direction, and using the data from the past, we can plot the best route to take between these goals. So how do we maintain that success? I think that periodic analysis of your history is very important. Like I said, measurable and influenceable KPIs are what you should be tracking. There are kind of micro KPIs that you should be tracking on a weekly basis. This is things like the number of outbound calls that your sales team has done, the number of inbound leads that your content marketing strategy has generated, the number of emails that are being sent, the number that have been opened, the click-through rates, the success on the landing pages. All of these things are kind of micro KPIs that you have influence as a sales and marketing leader or a sales and marketing rep. You have the influence to be able to change the outcome of those KPIs on a weekly basis by changing the wording in your emails, by changing the script that you're using when you're on the phone, by changing the questioning that you're using when you're trying to close a deal. And then you've also got your slightly longer term goals that are measured monthly or quarterly, and these are the things like how successful was the campaign that we did that lasted over Q1, and as we design a new campaign for Q2, is there anything that we can change to make that more effective? I think that objectivity is really important, especially for management. Just because it worked in the past certainly doesn't mean it's going to work again in the future. And so you will build a strategy, but you can't get too attached to that strategy. And when you're doing this analysis process, you need to kind of step back and really understand, is a pivot going to be more effective for us? Do I need to break apart what I built last year in order to move forward this year, and not to be scared of doing that and trying out new things? And then finally, transparency. I spoke to a friend of mine, and we recorded a podcast just before Christmas, which I'm going to be putting out in the next week or so. And he talks a lot about transparency. He's a CIO of a major corporation, so he was talking about transparency in terms of project management, setting realistic technical goals for the projects that they're running as a technical organization. But that really struck a chord with me in terms of sales and marketing as well. If you are transparent as a sales leader with your operational leader, your marketing leader that sits to the left and right of you, you can build an aligned strategy that works together, and it improves the likelihood of success. If a sales manager is telling their sales director, or if a sales leader is telling their CEO that everything's fine, and actually we're heading straight for the iceberg, really we should be saying, actually, I need support here, I need more resources, I need more time, I need more marketing input, whatever it is. And that transparency will then drive a higher likelihood of success for the whole business. So just to recap, we go from having no strategy at all to setting our goals through conducting research and understanding the map that sits out in front of us, the year that sits in front of us. Then we attach our tactical planning to that to say, how do we move through the quarters or through the milestones from A through to D or beyond to achieve the goals that we've set for ourselves. And then we look back at the end of that period and we analyze and we review what we've done in order to understand how to move forward again in the next period. So that's all I have to say, really. Bit of a theoretical kind of thought process, but I was thinking about this over Christmas, and I was thinking, how can I put this across in a kind of more fun and interactive way? So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you've got any questions, please do use the contact information here. Get in touch with me. More than happy to help you with your kind of strategic planning, or the more tactical process of laying out your roadmap, if you like, for success and hitting those goals and objectives, or looking back at the analysis in order to help you inform the new strategy for this year upcoming. Thank you very much, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Drop a like, comment if you want to ask any questions on LinkedIn. It lets me know that you guys are enjoying the content, and I'll be publishing more along with the podcast that I mentioned earlier in the next week or so. Thanks. Bye-bye.